Let's be real. Parenting a teenager is a journey. But parenting an autistic teen, that can feel like a full-blown expedition through one of the most intense times in a person's life. So today, we're going to dive into the incredible wisdom of Dr. Kayo Abujadi, a psychiatrist who really gets this world. We're going to break down his key insights on the pressures, the real purpose of it all, and the amazing connection that's possible during these crucial years.
Right off the bat, Dr. Abujadi wants you to know something really important. If you're here listening to this, you are not starting from zero, not even close. You've already walked a long, tough road. He says you are already resilient. You've already learned so much. This isn't about facing some new, impossible mountain. It's about using all that experience you fought for on a new part of the trail.
So let's start there. Section 1, a resilient family's journey. Before we get into any of the challenges, we have to honor the journey you've already been on, because it's not just a struggle, it's proof of your family's incredible strength. I mean, just think about it for a second. You've been through the initial shock of a diagnosis, all the uncertainty, what felt like a million appointments. And over all those years, you've become the world's #1 expert on one specific, amazing person, your child. That deep, gut-level knowledge you have, that's your superpower as you head into these teenage years.
All right, Section 2, the adolescent brain under pressure. And you're going to need that superpower, because adolescence is basically a perfect storm of pressure, both from the inside and the outside. And for an autistic teen, that storm can feel more like a hurricane.
Dr. Abujadi calls this the magnification effect. Think about it. Every teenager deals with social pressure, right? But for an autistic teen, that can feel like this crushing sense of inadequacy. Every parent is fighting the screen time battle, but the autistic brain is just way more vulnerable to electronic dependency. The big takeaway here is that an autistic teen's brain is simply more sensitive to everything, the good and the bad.
And Dr. Abujadi points his finger at two things, in particular, lack of sleep and too much screen time. He actually calls them neurotoxic. Why? Well, because they completely mess with our natural circadian rhythms. You know, that internal body clock that's so important it won a Nobel Prize back in 2017. For a brain that's already working overtime just to regulate itself, that kind of disruption is a huge deal.
So, what is actually happening inside their head during all this? Well, there's this process called neuronal pruning. The easiest way to picture it is the brain is kind of formatting its own hard drive. It's deleting the connections it doesn't use to make the important ones stronger and faster. And Dr. Abujadi explains that these pruning phases are naturally unstable times. To do this big remodeling job, the brain goes into a state of mild, natural inflammation, which makes it more vulnerable.
And that brings us to the final and most critical phase of this remodeling, right around ages 14 to 15. This is the big one. Now listen, this is really important to get right. Dr. Abujadi is very clear that only in very, very rare cases, when that natural inflammation gets combined with severe, chronic stress, we're talking extreme sleep deprivation and constant screen abuse, it can create a perfect storm that might trigger serious issues like psychotic symptoms. This is why managing those outside stressors isn't just good parenting, it's literally protecting their brain.
Okay, Section 3, beyond milestones. So knowing all this, all these intense pressures, it leads us to a really big shift in how we think about our goals. Dr. Abujadi argues we might need to rethink what we're actually aiming for.
You know, as parents, society kind of programs us to focus on a checklist of milestones, right? Reading, school, getting that diploma, landing a job. We pour so much energy into these things. But Dr. Abujadi asks us to just pause and ask ourselves, are those things the true measure of a happy, well-lived life? He challenges us to look for something deeper.
And he gives that something deeper a name, moral cognition. Now hold on, this has nothing to do with religion. It's about wisdom. It's the ability to see yourself as part of a bigger picture, to genuinely understand that every single person you meet has their own complex inner world, full of their own thoughts and struggles. It's about learning how to move through life in harmony with that reality. That, he says, is the real foundation of happiness.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Real intelligence isn't about a piece of paper. We've all met people who maybe didn't have a lot of formal schooling, but they have this magnificent wisdom about life. They just know how to live, how to be happy, how to connect with people. Dr. Abujadi says that is the most important thing we can ever hope to teach our kids.
Which brings us to Section 4, the true language of love. So if the goal is wisdom and harmony, how in the world do we get there? Well, it all comes down to something we think we know, but we might need to learn all over again, the language of love.
And this is such a huge question. Think about it. We can work ourselves to the bone for our kids, completely driven by our love for them. But if the way we show that love isn't in a language they can actually understand and feel, then the connection just gets lost. It's not enough for us to feel it. They have to receive it. That's everything.
And that language of love has to change as they grow. When they're babies, it's all sensory, right? Singing, rocking. In childhood, it becomes about tolerant conversation. Patiently answering the same question for the 10th time. Not because they didn't hear you, but because they love the connection of your voice. But in adolescence, the language shifts again. And here's the key: you have to enter their world first. You have to truly understand their reality before you can ever hope to guide them into yours.
And you can't teach this stuff with a lecture. You teach it by living it. Your example is the curriculum. And this is a hard one, this also means you have to let them stumble. It is our deepest instinct to protect our kids from any and all pain. But Dr. Abujadi is so clear on this. The real learning happens after the failure, after they make a social mistake, after the heartbreak. Our job isn't to prevent them from falling. It's to be there to sit with them in the aftermath and help them figure out what just happened.
So what about medication? It gets misunderstood all the time. Dr. Abujadi frames it not as a cure for autism, because it's not, but as a really valuable tool. Its whole purpose is to stabilize the brain's excitability, to quiet that internal storm just enough so that the child can actually receive and process all the real work, the therapy, the learning, and most importantly, the love.
Okay, Section 5, your work, their future. Let's pull all these threads together. What is the ultimate point of this difficult, beautiful, and totally demanding journey?
This right here is the heart of it all. This is your work. In a world that can feel so overwhelming and painful for your child, your role is to be an alchemist, to take their moments of anguish, their anxiety, their confusion, and through your patience, your understanding, your steady presence, you transform that energy into a felt sense of safety and love.
And Dr. Abujadi's final message is it's directly for you, the parent. He says, with so much feeling, that you have to know this. You are special people, and you cannot give up. After all the work, all the love, all the struggle, please know that your children will become great human beings because they have you.
And that leaves us with one final, powerful thought to sit with. We so often look at autism through a lens of deficits and challenges. But what if we've got it completely backward? What if their unique sensitivity, their intense honesty, their different way of seeing the world, what if it isn't a problem we need to fix, but a profound lesson for the rest of us in a better, more harmonious way to live?